Now we're being recorded. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Welcome. If anyone's to join these sessions, can afford them the same. I think it doesn't work like that. I think they have to do as you did. You can try, but I think they have to personally get I have to personally tick and give and send an automated response. Otherwise, they can come in, but it will be under your name, Daksha. So there'll be like 5 or 6 Dakshas. I think that's how it works. So you can try. Yes, no problem. You can try. Hare Krishna. All right. So let me press record. Oh, I've already pressed record. So welcome again, Hare Krishna. So this is being recorded. So I say welcome, 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 Hare Krishna. So this is open session number 8. And as amazingly enough, I just looked just before today, we got over 102 persons who have registered. But I don't think 102 people will generally be tuning in for various reasons, but still it's very good. It's very encouraging. Devotees would like to hear and study Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So that's good. It's always inspiring. And so we're on session 8. So this is chapter 4. And today we're going to look at, probably we're going to get to texts 8, perhaps 9, and perhaps 10. Let's see how we go. There's no, as I said last week, there's no rush. And the format we have, just sorry to keep reminding the devotees who know the protocol, how we're doing things. But questions are very much encouraged, discussion as well. If you have any reflections, you're quite welcome to offer those. You can do that simply by unmuting and shouting out and saying, hello, Hare Krishna, or you can put it in a chat. So that's also working quite well as well. Okay. Katerina says, I will not let them in. I tried joining last time on laptop through the number, but it asked me to register again. Yeah, sometimes that happens. Sometimes I get a couple of requests for admission. So yeah, just send them to me. And that's fine. I generally look before each session. All right, so let me share the Bhagavad Gita. Sure, just in case some of you don't have the Bhagavad Gita on hand, I have it already here on my screen, so I'm going to share that now. Remember, devotees who like to read, you're quite welcome to read. This is how we do it. Normally, each person will read a verse and the translation in purple. You're quite welcome to read the Sanskrit. It's relatively easy in the Bhagavad Gita, so you can have a go at that. If not, then don't worry, just read the translation, okay? So let's see a few hands out there. Can't see any hands yet. Let me get up. That's because I haven't got the right thing on. Okay, participants. Okay, I'm going to call on someone to read then while you're getting warmed up to put your hands up. Mother, well, she's letting people in. Oh, is this Sita Vallabhi? Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. So this is Sita Vallabhi. You can go ahead then, and let's before we begin, let's offer some prayers to Srila Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnu Bhattaya Krishna Bhastaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamti Namane Namaste Sarasati Devi Gauravani Pachaline Nivasesha Shunyavhari Pashtatara Satarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Okay, Hare Krishna. So let's dive into the sacred words of Lord Sri Krishna, the Bhagavad Gita. Hare Krishna. So you can go, Mother Sita.
Hare Krishna. Text 4.8.
Correct.
Paritranaya sadhuna vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma sanstaya panayatharya sambhavami yuge yuge. Translation. Sorry, Prabhu, I'm reading from the phone.
No problem.
Yeah. To deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to re-establish the principles of religion, I myself appear millennium after millennium. Purport by his Grace Srila Prabhupada. According to Bhagavad Gita, a sadhu, holy man, is a man in Krishna consciousness. A person may appear to be irreligious, but if he has the qualifications of Krishna consciousness wholly and fully, he is to be understood to be a sadhu. And dushkritam applies to those who do not care for Krishna consciousness. Such miscreants or dushkritam are described as foolish and the lowest of mankind, even though they may be decorated with mundane education. Whereas a person who is 100% engaged in Krishna consciousness is accepted as a sadhu, even though such a person may be neither learned nor well cultured. As far as the atheistic are concerned, it is not necessary for the Supreme Lord to appear as he is to destroy them, as he did with the demons Ravana and Kamsa. The Lord has many agents who are quite competent to vanquish demons, but the Lord especially descends to appease his unalloyed devotees, who are always harassed by the demoniac. The demon harasses the devotee, even though the latter may happen to be his kin. Although Prahlada Maharaja was the son of Hiranyakashipu, he was nonetheless prosecuted by his father. Although Devaki was the mother of Krishna, was the sister of Kamsa, she and her husband Vasudeva were persecuted only because Krishna was to be born of them. So Lord Krishna appeared primarily to deliver Devaki rather than kill Kamsa. But both were performed simultaneously. Therefore, it is said here that to deliver the devotee and vanquish the demon miscreants, the Lord appears in different incarnations. In Chaitanya Charitamrita of Krishnadas Kaviraj, the following verses, Madhya Lila 20, 263 and 264, summarize these principles of incarnation. Shriti hetu ye murti prapanche avatare, sei Ishvara murti avatara namadhare, maya tita paravyome sabara avasthana, vishve avatari dhare avatar nama. The avatar or incarnation of Godhead descends from the kingdom of God for material manifestation, and the particular form of the personality of Godhead who so descends is called an incarnation or avatar. Such incarnations are situated in the spiritual world, the kingdom of God. When they descend to the material creation, they assume the name avatar. There are various kinds of avatars such as Purusha avatar, Guna avatar, Leela avatar, Shakti Avesh avatar, Manvantar avatar, and Yuga avatar, all appearing on schedule over the universe. But Lord Krishna is the primeval Lord and fountainhead of all avatars. Lord Krishna descends for specific purpose of mitigating the anxieties of the pure devotees, who are very anxious to see him in his original Vrindavan pastimes. Therefore, the prime purpose of Krishna avatar is to satisfy his unalloyed devotees. The Lord says that he incarnates himself in every millennium. This indicates that he incarnates also in the age of Kali. As stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the incarnation of the age of Kali is Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who spread the worship of Krishna by the Sankirtan movement, congregational chanting of the holy names, and spread Krishna consciousness throughout India. He predicted that this culture of Sankirtan would be broadcast all over the world, from town to town and village to village. Lord Chaitanya, as the incarnation of Krishna, the personality of Godhead, is described secretly but not directly in the confidential parts of the revealed scriptures such as the Upanishads, Mahabharata, and Bhagavatam. The devotees of Lord Krishna are very much attracted by the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya. This avatar of the Lord does not kill the miscreants, but delivers them with his causeless mercy.
Hare Krishna, thank you.
Thank you.
Very nice. So this is, hopefully, probably quite a few of you know this verse. This is one of the first verses that I learned when I began studying the Bhagavad Gita. I think the first time I read Bhagavad Gita was in 1987, something like that. And then I eventually came to the temple, and these were the verses I was learning on what was called a Bhakta course, right? So, Pratnaya sadhanam manasya tadiskutam dhamma samsapanataya sambhavami yuge. Yeah, so verse 7 was telling us the reasons why he comes. So can anyone just tell us the reason why Krishna comes? From text 7.
To re-establish the religion.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, to re-establish religious principles.
Yes.
And it has to be done because although the Lord establishes what's called Dharma, the nature of the material world is just like water always finds its lowest point. So no matter what good is established, over time it will degrade. So even if Krishna establishes it, that's the nature of the material world. Just like if you clean your flat, if you clean a place where you live, it's not going to stay like that. It's not going to stay clean. Give it another week, another 2 weeks, and dust is going to start collecting. You're going to have to clean it again. So this is the nature of the material world. So that was number 7, to establish Dharma. And here, well, in text 8, what he actually does is being described now. Yeah, what he actually does, why he comes, and what he does is being explained. So anyone have any particular questions or reflection on this?
Murli Prabhu, Katrina has put down on the chat to release Bhumi Devi from the burden caused by the demon.
Yeah, Bhumi Devi says referring to Mother Earth. Yes, yes, it's very nicely described actually. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, for those who have read Srimad Bhagavatam, there is one beautiful verse wherein Mother Bhumi is expressing her feelings of separation from Krishna. I think it's early in the 1st or 2nd canto, where Mother Bhumi is expressing that now that Krishna's lotus feet are now no longer treading on the surface, and the earth is also now prominent are the materialistic or the Duskritana people. Yeah, so Krishna comes. She says 7 and 8 are also the beginning of the song. Okay. Anyone heard this song, Bow Down Mister? Some of you might not. I think some of you come from India. You might not be so familiar with the pop scene in the UK.
George, wasn't he George?
I remember. Boy George.
Boy George.
All right, so we've got a few Brits here.
See? I still remember him.
Recently, last year, he had a concert at Manor. He sang that, I believe.
Yeah, all right, so it is a bit of trivia. What's it called? Triviality for you. Did you know that the Bhagavad Gita text, chapter 4, text 7 and 8, were in the song by Boy George? Bow Down Mister. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Okay, thank you for that, Hare Krishna. So let's just go back to the verse and here. Any other particular questions or curiosities here? Or reflections? One, yeah. One we could ask here.
Which verse did we do? Sorry, I just joined a bit late.
We're on 8. We're on text 8.
That's why I lost it.
Perhaps I'll ask our revered members here or devotees.
Okay, I can.
Yeah, let me just ask this one question. Then, if you have questions, so I'll ask you, what does Prabhupada actually mean here? He's saying a person may appear to be irreligious, but if he has the qualifications of Krishna consciousness, wholly and fully, and also we can ask that, what does it mean to be Krishna conscious, wholly or fully? How is someone who's irreligious, seems to be irreligious, how can they considered a sadhu? What is Prabhupada referring to here? What type of activity? A person who appears to be irreligious. So what things are they doing, but they're still considered a sadhu? I'll put you on
when they are Krishna conscious.
Well, that's so here. They're Krishna conscious, but they appear to be irreligious in some way. What is it that they're doing that appears to be not religious? Or what could it be? What could Prabhupada be referring to here?
Prabhu, can I just
Yes.
know with I feel like a Grahastha life, and it seems to be just they are doing everything mundane, everything okay, everybody else is doing, I'm also doing the same thing, but he is really not doing the same thing. Having prasadam, he will have prasadam, but somebody may not understand that. So then you will think, oh, they're also doing the same thing what we are doing.
Yeah, that's very good. Actually, I was reading this beforehand, and I was asking this question to myself. I was trying to understand what Prabhupada meant here. So, me asking you was to answer my question. It wasn't clear, but Nitai Mata has made it clear. Yes, very good. Thank you. So, sadhus, generally, sadhus are seen or known to be in meditation in the Himalaya, for example. Yeah, wearing saffron cloth, perhaps living on the bank of the Ganges, or living in a temple, sadhu. Yeah. So, as Nitai Mata mentioned, some person may not be living in the Himalaya, may not be living on the bank of the Ganges, but may be engaged in work, in maintaining a family, etc., maybe traveling on the train to their job. Yeah, so from the external point of view, it may not seem that they are sadhu, but actually, if they're Krishna conscious, Prabhupada says wholly and fully, they're considered to be a sadhu. And I think in our tradition, it's generally we accept it in our tradition of Krishna consciousness, whereas opposed to other traditions, more of the Mayavad, what's known as the Mayavad or the impersonal school, to actually be a sadhu or classified as a sadhu, you have to renounce everything, your family, everything, to be termed the sadhu. But we have a different concept than that. Sadhu is a Krishna conscious person, and that person could have a family, etc., could have a job and various what looks like worldly responsibilities. Yeah. So yeah, this is correct. That's a man appears to be irreligious.
Prabhu, can I add one more thing? I think on this point only, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed Kurma Brahmana, you don't need to come with me. You just follow your duties and preach.
Yeah, thank you. This is from Chaitanya Charitamrita. The Kurma Brahmana was very much became very, very attracted to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he came to his house. And he wanted to travel with him and give up all his family responsibilities. And Lord Chaitanya said, as one verse, the essence of it is sthaneshtita. You just stay where you are, but you give up the process of mental speculation. Yeah. So you can be a sadhu, working in the local post office or working for the national health. You can be a sadhu. Yeah. If you're Krishna conscious. Yeah,
Hare
thank you.
Krishna.
Yes, please.
What about Jad Bharat as well, right? He was pretending that he's not mentally sound, but he was actually a sadhu, right?
Yeah, you could give that as another example. He
renounced everything, and he was showing to the world that he's not with it, kind of.
He was practicing Jada Yoga. For those who read Srimad Bhagavatam, this is a wonderful story in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Jada Yoga, which means you manifest yourself as dumb, deaf and dumb to the world. So Jada Bharat did that in order not to be entangled. So he definitely seemed to be not following regulation. So you could say, yeah, that's an interesting example. Jad Bharat, Jada Yoga. Yeah. Yes, thank you. Now I'm a bit more clearer on this. Any other curiosities or questions here? Yeah, what does Prabhupada mean by wholly and fully Krishna conscious? I'm asking you questions here. So that's wholly and fully. I'm asking myself as well. By hearing your answers, then I'm becoming educated myself. Wholly and fully. So it seems like you have to be wholly and you have to be fully Krishna conscious. So
I was going to say, is it just
One.
always acting in relation to Krishna being the supreme controller?
yeah, I
Or
think
is it
so.
something different?
I think we can give many answers to this. Yeah, someone who's always acting. What did you say, Mavala Vangalatika? Always acting.
Always, whose actions are always aligned with Krishna.
Yeah, that's correct. So they're not just sadhus when they come to the temple on a Janmashtami, or they don't. They are always Krishna conscious. Yeah, wholly and fully. Like being Krishna conscious is 24/7. That's a Krishna conscious person. Yeah, so considered to be a sadhu. Yes, wholly and fully. And in the next verse, if we get to it, Prabhupada describes in the end of the purport to the next verse the different levels of Krishna conscious attainment. So let's see if we get there. So wholly and fully.
I think also Prabhupada wants to stress
Yes.
that one has to be very, very attentive and aware of being Krishna conscious. He wants to insist on that point, which is why he is writing wholly and fully.
Yeah, always. How do you explain? Always be aware. Say that again, Dhananjay.
To be aware and attentive in following Krishna consciousness.
Yeah, be aware and
to
attentive.
insist that one has to be wholly and fully aware of being Krishna conscious.
Yes, correct. Yes, thank you. And also Katarina mentions on the chat. Let me look here, going up. To surrender the mind, the thoughts and the actions to Krishna, so easily as said and done. So I guess we are trying to be wholly and fully Krishna conscious. Yeah, this is our position. We are trying to be. Or she mentioned could be an initiated devotee, sadhu, or may not be initiated, may be initiated or not. Yes. Okay. Any other reflections here?
Prabhu, can I try something?
Please, yes.
I was thinking, if you see Lord's hand in whatever happens around you, and whatever you see, if you see Krishna, so that means you are Krishna consciousness all the time.
Yes, yes. So, in other words, not just being aware of Krishna's presence within the temple, within the murti, or within the deity, but to seeing Krishna, or the world reminds one of Krishna. Like, for example, in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, there's one sadhu, and he's asked by Maharaj Yadu, I think, Maharaj Yadu. It's obviously this sadhu has no particular, he seems to be not of any particular ashram, he seems no particular status. He doesn't seem to belong to any specific spiritual tradition, but he's exhibiting the symptoms of exalted state of God consciousness. So he's asked, how is it that you're so elevated in your consciousness? And then he begins to describe how he's learnt from the world. I think most devotees know is the 24 gurus. Yeah, and he's learned lessons from the world. Yeah. So we have the Bhagavad Gita, which is Krishna's words, and then we have And that reminds us, and that is instructions on how to be Krishna conscious. But if we are Krishna conscious, we can receive instructions from Krishna coming from the world around us, from the world about us. Yeah, it can be what's known as a udipan, a stimulus for being Krishna conscious. So, like when we're walking in the park or whatever we're doing, yeah, some things are more. For example, some things we see where we're able to see the struggle for material existence. For example, with any animal species, and we see animals struggling for food, yeah, or defending themselves. So we can understand this. Yeah, this is the struggle in the material world. Perhaps it's a bit more difficult to do when we're faced with personal problems and difficulties, to actually see it in a way that, or see it in a Krishna conscious way that takes a more elevated state of consciousness. But yes, basically that. Any other thoughts and reflections on that, or any other questions? Yeah, 1 second. I just. Okay, someone's got their hand up here. Let me just. Okay, Katori just sent one verse. What's the translation to this verse? Okay, you put it here. Giving up all sinful activities. Maybe 1 second. Just sending them. Giving all sinful activities, carry on your worldly duties only in relation to Lord Krishna. The showing of compassion to other souls by loudly chanting the holy names of Krishna is the essence of all forms of religion. Yeah, that's a bhajan from Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Nadia Godruma Bhajan. Nadia. Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, giving up. So this is a good description of Krishna consciousness. Giving up worldly duties. Carry on your worldly duties, excuse me. Giving up all sinful activities. Yeah. Yeah, that's this verse very nicely, very much mentions this mood of Lord Chaitanya and speaking to the Korma Brahmana. I think, yes, giving all sinful activities, carry on your worldly duties only in relation to Lord Krishna, thus showing of compassion to others by loudly chanting the holy name of Krishna is the essence of all forms of religion. Okay, thank you for that. Okay, so I got some more questions that I had here. Let me just Baba Chandravali, you had a question there?
Well, the one that Prabhupada is saying, although Prahlada Maharaja was a son of Hiranyakashipu, right?
Yeah.
Yes. I was going to ask you, why did Krishna appear to save Prahlad only after Prahlad was persecuted by his father? And why not before?
Good question. Yeah. So, as we know, this is story she's quoting from the 7th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And Prahlad was, what difficulties he went through. So again, I'll ask the question: what did the sadhus here think? Why was Krishna? Krishna saved Prahlad. As we know, that's the great exciting ending of that wonderful pastime.
Yes, Prabhu, because Lord wants to glorify the devotee.
Yes, Nita.
Lord wants to glorify the devotee. If he can come at any time and save the devotee, but then we will not glorify Prahlada Maharaj, how we accept, and also to give us encouragement, to show us that devotee will not deviate with all these minor calamities. He will be faithfully surrendered to the Lord.
Yeah, I think Nitai again has given a very nice answer there. And anybody else has anything to add? So
Can I like
Also,
connect it to Draupadi? You know, like Krishna doesn't come when she's like meditate. She goes to her sons and one arm up, holding a sari, this that. But when she totally surrenders,
Yeah.
then Krishna comes. But Prahlada Maharaj is totally surrendered. So
yeah, it's
why
another
did you
nice
wait that long?
Yeah, that's a good point. Another nice example of that. Yeah, Draupadi. Why didn't Krishna come in the very beginning? Why didn't he stop Dushasan from dragging her from the room? Yeah, by her hair, I think, practically. You know, why did she have to go through that before Krishna came and manifest his shelter and mercy? But I think as
what is Krishna looking for? Surrender.
Sorry?
What is Krishna looking in us as for us to surrender?
Yeah, for sure. That's the lesson we learned with Draupadi, where she had one hand on her sari, trying in great futility to stop the powerful, was it Dushasan?
Yeah.
Powerful warrior of Dushasan. And she was still holding on to her sari. But eventually, as we know, famously, she put two hands in the air and said, "Oh, Govinda." Then Krishna manifest as a sari, or he manifest a sari. So that's
okay. Then Murli Prabhu, can you explain then to us why Prahlad was totally surrendered? Well, so why did Nrsimhadev take so long to protect him? Well, he protected him all the time, but to come.
Nitai Mata, I think she's given I think she's kind of given a very good answer. That actually, Prahlada Maharaj, despite what he was going through, despite what he went through, he always had absolute faith that the Lord is his protector. And the Lord is protecting him, and the Lord will protect me. Even though he was put into so many, very trying and difficult situations, he didn't for one moment doubt the Lord's presence. You know, so that again, as Nitai Mata said, it's a great example for us. Yeah, it's a great example. And also the Lord is the performer of wonderful, amazing activities. So he's the ultimate orchestrator of Leela and pastimes. So just like if you go to see imagine if there's you go to see an adventure film where and there's no drama. I mean, the person, imagine you went to see a film where say someone's, attempted to be kidnapped or to be taken away, and then it doesn't happen. They're always in a safe situation. In other words, it doesn't create a very exciting story. So the Lord is very, the Lord is very, Krishna is a very, Krishna likes to enjoy pastimes, Leela, and he does it in a very dramatic way. And especially he does it through his pure, unadulterated devotees like Prahlad, because he knows they're not going to lose faith in him. So therefore, Prahlad, he knows Prahlad could be put in very trying, difficult situations, and he will show us what actually having faith means. And Prahlad is known for smaranam, isn't it? For remembering the Lord.
Yes.
So again, I think that I might have mentioned to exemplify or to glorify his devotees. Then he may act in or he may arrange the pastime in such a way that it seems like the devotees are in trouble. And that makes it, in one sense, it makes it very exciting And then when the Lord finally comes in as the hero, it's always very wonderful. It adds an extra dynamic to the Leela. Like, for instance, when the Lord Ram eventually rescued Sita, he could say, yeah, they could ask all types of questions then. So why did Ram allow Sita to be stolen by Ravana? Yeah. Well, if he didn't, there wouldn't be the Ramayana. There wouldn't be the exciting Leela and pastimes. There's a word for Krishna, who's the form of exciting pastimes. Just escapes me just now. So in answer to your question about Chandravali, I would say that's it. That's it. The Lord is very, so how can we relate to that personally? Perhaps, or can we relate to that personally? Does anyone sometimes you're going through a difficult situation and you're questioning the Lord's presence in your life? I'm sure we do.
Yeah, definitely we do. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you see.
Go on.
The example of Draupadi and Gajendra is also like similar. When they are in immense distress, they try to call Lord Krishna. It's also like exemplifying for the devotees how to have faith and how to call Lord Krishna when you are in distress.
Yes, very good. You said, who's it? Draupadi and? I was just...
Gajendra.
Gajendra, yeah. Thank you. Sorry, I was just looking at something. Yeah. Gajendra Mokshana. Yes.
And Kunti as well.
Kunti, yeah, we could go. Actually, most of the pastimes that the Lord performed here in Bhoma, it has this aspect where the devotees seem to be without, or the Lord seems to be absent, but he is not. And then we actually, and personally also, the Lord is for us personally as well. Actually, it's described, Krishna describes, this is kind of connected when this is from the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, when Krishna left the Gopis association and they was accusing him in many different ways. Yeah. And then they was questioning why he does that. Yeah. And in essence, Krishna said, it's just like a poor person who suddenly comes into wealth. You can imagine someone who's poor, hasn't had much wealth throughout their life and always dreaming of being in a wealthy situation. And then all of a sudden, they come into great wealth. You can imagine how excited they may be. Let's just say they was given they found a lottery ticket in the bin and they picked it up. Okay, we don't gamble, hope we're not. And they became a winner of millions and millions of, whatever, yeah. Then as it turned out, it was a mistake. Or someone gets into wealth or then they lose the wealth, that's what I'm trying to explain. So Krishna explains it like that. They cannot stop thinking of that. So the same when Krishna seems to be absent in our life, within our japa, etc., etc. But then Krishna sees us carrying on with our devotional activities and he becomes very much obliged to that. He becomes very much pleased that despite my devotee going through so much difficulties, and I'm keeping myself a little in the background. Yeah, and also Krishna likes to see his devotees call out for him more and depend on him more. Yeah. And then when he sees the devotees, as Dhananjaya mentioned, he mentioned Gajendra, how them prayers that Gajendra offered, very wonderful prayers that he offered. then the Lord is obliged by the devotion of a devotee to actually appear. Yeah, so anything else on that? It's wonderful.
From the purport, can I ask something?
Yes, please go ahead. Yeah.
I'm just thinking, what's wrong being material? What's wrong with being educated in a mundane way? Because being in a material world, you do need to be educated a little bit.
Little bit. Yeah, Prabhupada mentions here such
Yeah, in the purport he's saying it.
yeah, such
even though
miscreants or duskritam
maybe decorative mundane education,
are
yeah.
described as foolish and the lowest of mankind. This is Namam Duskridana Mudya Papajanti Naradama Maya Pitagana Asaram Bhav Mashrata. Prabhupada is quoting from that verse in the 7th chapter, I think. So such miscreants or duskritam are described as foolish and the lowest of mankind, even though they may be decorated with mundane education. So Prabhupada seems to be speaking like it doesn't seem to be speaking well of mundane education. What is what is mundane education?
Which is not connected to your spiritual life. It doesn't help you in your
Could say, yeah, that is
life.
not that which is not connected to transcendence. So an interesting point John Devoli is making is that it seems like in this world, devotees as well, is that we do have to have some type of knowledge of the functioning of this world. Like, for instance, most of us are probably sitting in front of computer screens or phones and things like that. So we have to have a basic knowledge of how it works. So yes, we have to have a basic knowledge of how to make a way in this world. But the point here, and Prabhupada mentions mundane education, even though they may be decorated with mundane education. So it has to be there to some degree, but not that it completely not that we can become forgetful of the ultimate education. We become forgetful of transcendental knowledge. Yeah. Also, Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his prayers and in his songs, he often speaks in a negative way about, quote unquote, mundane education from his own personal experience now that he's relishing Krishna consciousness. Yeah. So we have, there's children in our society and they go to school and they become educated, but their education is always in connection somehow with Krishna. So it plays a role, but ultimately it's not going to save us from birth and death. We just have to remember that. No matter how much education you may have, it's not going to save you from birth and death, and it's not going to mean that you're going to be Krishna conscious. Yeah, this mundane education. But so we do what we have to do to make our way in the world. Yeah, and for some of you it may mean more details. You may have the type of occupations that you may have. And but occupations, I saw this quote that Mother Katarina gave earlier. Carry on your worldly duties only in relation to Lord Krishna. So we can see our world or our specific occupation or what we're doing in the world, we can somehow dovetail it with Krishna. Yeah, that's the whole science of Krishna consciousness. But Prabhupada speaks here in a negative connotation, making a comparison to those who may be well qualified to those who are 100% engaged in Krishna consciousness. So sometimes you see persons with very academically educated, but their personal life is what, from our perspective, is kind of very adharmic, or you could say, from our perspective, is very sinful. Yeah, they may be very well educated, but they are maybe drunkards, and Prabhupada would say woman hunters, drunkards, and debauchees. Yeah. But whereas someone
What was the third one you said, Prabhuji?
debauchees, woman hunters, yeah, so someone who has a low character, but they may be very educated academically, but their personal example is not one to follow. So Prabhupada would often mention that.
I got a bit of a point here, like say early days when ISKCON started, everybody was living in the temples, and okay, you didn't have education, fine. You went out on books and distributed books and did that kind of services and survived. But now the whole society's changed, and most are living outside as grahastas and serving the temple within their area. So then do they not need to be educated a little bit so they can survive? I'm just thinking as a whole thing.
Yeah, I think Mother Lavangalataka, she asked this question some time back and brought up this discussion. Perhaps other devotees can also share or give their idea on this. But I think these circumstances warranted it, the specific situation in Prabhupada's personal presence, and definitely the establishing of Krsna consciousness, and the circumstances and the time that Krsna consciousness was established in the West. It so happened that young people were rebelling against the status quo. And even before Prabhupada's coming to the US, young people were beginning to reject their secular education and were asking, you know, and were had an interest in things like India, meditation, and were looking at alternative lifestyles. Yeah. So it is very circumstantial, and then Prabhupada came at that particular time where a lot of young people were ready and willing to actually completely take 100% to Krsna consciousness, in the sense of giving up everything and joining the temple or the temples. So it was very understandable and very relevant at that time. Yeah, but now things have changed a little bit. Yeah, or things have changed a lot a bit. It's a different setting now that we're in. Young people are not so inclined to give up all their they're not so inclined to give up their particular lifestyle or their particular, or not inclined to renounce their home or their wealth. Yep, they're not inclined to.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, can I add something?
Yes, please.
There?
Yeah.
I do not know whether you have heard of Gauranga Darshan Prabhu. Nowadays, I see especially Radhanath Maharaj disciples, all are well educated. All these brahmacharis, they are wearing orange. They are well educated. So it can happen anytime, yes, whether before education or after education, it can happen, because this is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's moment.
Yeah, Nitai Mat has brought up a very good point. Yeah, thank you. That's also that's also a very valuable observation. There's quite a difference actually between Krsna consciousness in the West and Krsna consciousness in India. Like in temples in India, as Nitai Mata's mentioning, the temples are booming with brahmacharis. Like I was in Mayapur, there must be 800 brahmacharis there. And Chaupadi, there's many brahmacharis. And as she mentions, they're coming, actually their protocol that they have to follow is that they can't join the ashram until they've completed their education.
Yeah.
And they have to work for a year as well. to get a taste of what it's like. They have to complete all their education, then they have to work for at least a year, and only then will they be considered to be allowed to become a Brahmachari.
Actually, I was thinking of Keshava Maharaj. He's one classic example in London.
Yeah. He's someone who came from an educated background. Yeah, so you got a different circumstances. More the West, I mean, we experience here trying to convince one young Westerner to become a Brahmachari is very difficult. It's very few and far in between, you know. So again, different place, different circumstances.
Hare Krishna.
Yes,
Can
please.
you hear me? Can you hear me? Yeah, I was so sorry. I was at work, so I was just commenting. I was finished. I think it's important for us to understand what is meant by the education, the mundane education, because when we look at, for example, what I've learned at school, say 20 years ago, the children that are there nowadays, they are learning something different because they found out that whatever they knew before, oh, it's not like that. And that the science is changing as well, that there are new discoveries. And another thing, there was actually last time I was reading in Lilamrita, where Prabhupada was speaking with one teacher of Hinduism, and Prabhupada has asked him, what is Hinduism? And he said to him, I can't describe it, I don't know. And Prabhupada got very angry, but you are teaching it, so how come you don't know?
Yeah, Prabhupada would call them cheaters. Persons who are professing to teach, but they don't know about the ultimate objective. Yeah, thank you for that. Yes, thank you. So, any reflections back on that, Mother Chandravali, after hearing? Yes.
I was thinking that that we do need, like you were saying, Brahmacharya and Chopati, and that we do need them to have that experience for them to take it up seriously, that this Krishna consciousness is what I need. I don't need this mundane education. But they have to go through it to make them realize themselves, you know?
Yeah, I mean,
can I ask a question?
Please. Yeah, Mother Daksha. Yeah, please go ahead.
Hello, Hare Krishna, everybody.
Hare Krishna.
I am not an ISKCON member, but I'm really interested in learning what's on Bhagavad Gita.
Nice.
I find it very difficult to understand. That's why I joined you. I have joined the other groups as well.
Happy that
to get as much knowledge as I can. But just about brahmacharis, so I heard somewhere in Srimad Bhagavad that somebody say that it is not necessary at this age in Kali Yuga to be a brahmachari or renounce, but just to you do your worldly duties, you look after your family, you have a family, plus you give some time to Lord Krishna. So why are youngsters becoming brahmacharis? Why is ISKCON allowing them? I just don't understand the brahmachari bit.
Yeah, very interesting point.
We're talking to a brahmachari who's been a brahmachari for over 35 years.
Well, very interesting point. The first point that you was making is very relevant, and we should understand that actually these are material designations. I'm a brahmachari, I'm a sannyasi, I'm a grihastha. These are all temporary designations, and ultimately they are material. Yeah. So actually, to be Krishna consciousness is not dependent on a particular. It may not be dependent on a particular ashram, although being situated in an ashram like the Brahmachari ashram or the Grihastha ashram creates a stable situation in which one can develop Krishna consciousness. So especially traditionally, it would be youngsters or young men. They would, from the age up to 25, I think, then generally they would become brahmacharis to learn austerity, to develop good virtue, to develop good qualities, etc. And that in itself will set them in good stead for their future life. So whenever it's, so for instance, if you've got a young person who has no particular responsibilities like a mortgage or family or children, then it's quite ideal time for them to absorb themselves in a spiritual practice. Now, it's understood that most will probably not continue with that vow of brahmachari, and it's seen practically that most do not. A small percentage will. So it's good for a young person at that age, at that stage in their life, to spend some time, yeah, while they have no pressing need to earn money to, to maintain a family, then they may spend. It's good to spend, okay, as they do in ISKCON Chowpatty, they first complete their education. And even if one is planning to eventually get married, then why not take a year or two out? What they call it like a sabbatical.
Sabbatical.
A sabbatical before life happens to them, and then what happens is that because they get to associate with devotees, they get to learn humility, they get given tasks to do like cleaning, and then they develop qualities which will put them in good stead for being like of a good character. Yeah. So that will aid them in their life. So therefore it's good. It's recommended if one can to spend some time within it. And then that will be that again. So does that help, Mother Daksha?
Yes. So they are allowed to then have a family. They can marry and have family as well as continue with the duties, Krishna Bhakti.
Yeah, that's it. And then they will see. So what happens is they will get a taste for chanting the Lord's holy name. They will have a taste for hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, and the idea is that carries into their grihastha ashram. So they will not get overwhelmed with all the material duties and expectations. They will keep a foundation of Krishna conscious practice, which they learned as a brahmachari. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Can I give a mundane example?
Let's hear from Dhananjaya first, and then we'll go to Chandravali. Dhananjaya, please.
Prabhuji, there was one session that I heard from Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj about ashram, where he also mentioned that when we enter Grihastha ashram, it is not that we get a license to irregulate our life with a Grihastha ashram. It's not a license that we are getting to. Basically, we have to be very, very focused, just like a brahmachari, and take responsibilities of our family members as well. So Grihasthashram, also one should look forward to living a life like a brahmachari with humility, with responsibilities, and not get into material entanglements.
Yeah, very good. Thank you, Dhananjaya. And that comes from the training as a brahmachari. So very good. So the idea, see, it's a grihastha ashram. So ashram means a place where spiritual life is the focus. So yeah, it's not a license. Srila Prabhupada would often say that something. It's not a license for sense gratification. One still leads a regulated life, but one is a little bit more independent to choose their particular activities, to choose their particular job and occupation, etc. There is a more independence there. But to develop Krishna consciousness, regardless of what ashram one is in, then one has to be learned to become Goswami, to have control of themselves, yeah, and not live like a materialistic person. Yeah. Mother Chandravali, yes, please.
I was going to give a mundane example. You know, when you building a house, I've done this before as well. You know, you do the foundation really good so the whole house can stand on it properly, right? In the same way, if we have this spiritual education, if we give our children spiritual education in the beginning, from the beginning, even if they become brahmacharis for a few years, after that, when they go into grahastha ashram or not, they will be able to follow the principles properly.
Yeah, and they give the parents, they won't give the parents a lot less stress.
Yes.
Yes.
There Krishna says, to the degree one surrenders, to that degree he reciprocates. So, you know, what we put in, we're going to get out.
Yeah, so it's investment. Kumara.
Yes, it's investment. Like this is material. If I always, in the beginning, I always used to say, I must do this, I must do that for my spiritual bank balance. We're always looking at our bank balance about money, how much I've got, how much I've got. Do we ever think how much spiritual bank balance we've got? Because that's going to go with us.
Yeah.
When we leave, we're going to take our spiritual bank balance, not the material bank balance.
Yeah, there's no Lloyd's Bank in the spiritual world.
Yeah.
You can't.
So we have to just be sincere and put a lot in that spiritual bank balance. If we think about it, that how we are in Krishna consciousness, what we have done in our previous lives to be in Prabhupada's ISKCON. So thinking of that, you're so grateful. So you want to then further your spiritual life to go back home, because this is the process.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Very wonderful.
Prabhuji, may I add
please,
two more points?
Two more, Dhananjay. Yes, go ahead. We're going.
Yeah.
Bit over
with
time.
regards to the education point that we were discussing some time back, I heard a session from Radhesham Prabhu where he was telling his story in an interview, how he came into ISKCON, how he became a Brahmachari and all of that. There he was mentioning that he, before completing education, actually went to the temple and he was saying that I want to become a Brahmachari. He was, so that temple Brahmacharis or the
leaders,
president, or they told him that you have to first complete your education, settle your parents, settle your family, your sisters should get married, everything is settled, then you come. And that's what he did. He completed his IIT masters, and then he settled his family completely, and then he joined full time.
That's a wonderful example. Yeah. So that's really, so that's the standard they have there in India. That's what they're doing. So there's an addition what they do, not just work a year, but make sure your parents are taken care of, make sure your younger sister's married. Now, there may be some situations where they may not follow that, but it seems like mainly that's what they are. So very nice, Radhesham. You set a wonderful example. Can be.
Prabhu? Hare Krishna. Can I jump in?
Let's have a last point from Mother Katharina, then we can continue tomorrow. Yes, Mother, please.
Yes, this is the point for the mundane education. I am originally from Czech Republic, and up until the 90s, we did not have access to English language due to the communist regime. But once
your voice is phasing out. I'm afraid we can't hear you.
Oh, okay. So let me type it in.
Type it into the chat, and we can bring it up tomorrow. You know, we continue tomorrow because I could see it. I get recordings of the chat.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, everyone. We already covered one verse today, but again, there is no rush. It's very wonderful, and let's join tomorrow. We can continue the discussion tomorrow, and we'll be looking at very important verse tomorrow. It's 4:9. Janma kama chame divyam evam yodavi trakvati hum punaja ama native the soldier. Another well-known verse, often quoted by Prabhupada. So We'll look at that verse tomorrow. Okay, thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you so much. Wonderful discussion.
Hare Krishna.
He is good. Yeah, Muli Prabhu ki jai. Great Muli Prabhu ki jai.
Hare Krishna.